Every day begins as a blank page. Before the world speaks to you, before messages, responsibilities, and expectations rush in, there is a sacred moment called morning. What you do in this moment often determines how the rest of the day unfolds. Morning prayer is not about long words or perfect expressions. It is about positioning your heart before you step into activity. It is a moment of awareness, a pause that reminds you that the day is not random and your life is not accidental. When you pray in the morning, you are choosing intention over reaction. You are deciding that the day will not control you. You will walk through it with clarity. Prayer becomes the space where fear is released, anxiety is quieted, and purpose is restored. Before the noise begins, prayer gives you stillness. Before decisions appear, prayer gives you wisdom. Before challenges arise, prayer gives you strength. Morning prayer also trains the mind to see possibilities instead of problems. It shifts focus from what could go wrong to what can be accomplished. It reminds you that no matter what lies ahead, you do not walk into the day empty. You walk in prepared. Gratitude is a powerful part of morning prayer. When you begin the day thankful, you disarm negativity. Gratitude opens your eyes to opportunity, peace, and progress. A grateful heart carries light into every room it enters. Most importantly, morning prayer teaches intentional living. You are no longer drifting through hours. You are moving with purpose. Each step becomes meaningful. Each task becomes focused, and each moment becomes valuable. So before you rush, before you speak, before you scroll, pause, pray, center yourself, set your direction. Because a day that begins with prayer often ends with peace. And a life that learns this habit begins to change from the inside out. Alignment for the day begins with understanding that every morning presents more than just a passage of time. It offers a moment where the inner life can be ordered before the outer life takes control. When a person wakes up, the mind is often the first battlefield. Thoughts rush in, memories from yesterday, worries about today, expectations, the fears, plans, and unanswered questions. Without intention, these thoughts begin to dictate emotions, and emotions begin to influence actions. Morning prayer functions as a deliberate pause in this process. Allowing the individual to realign the inner world before engaging with external demands. That is not an escape from responsibility, but a preparation for it. Alignment means bringing thoughts, emotions, values, and actions into harmony. Many people live misaligned lives, not because they lack effort or discipline, but because their inner direction is unclear. They wake up and immediately react to notifications, obligations, pressure, and urgency. By the time the day truly begins, their sense of control is already weakened. Morning prayer interrupts this reactive cycle. It creates a space where the heart can be steadied and the mind can be centered. In that space, priorities are reordered. What truly matters becomes clearer, and what is unnecessary loses its grip. When a person prays in the morning, they are choosing direction over distraction. Instead of allowing circumstances to define the tone of the day, they consciously set it. Alignment happens when intention is established before action. Without this, even good activities can feel heavy and exhausting because they are not connected to a deeper purpose. Prayer helps the individual remember why they do what they do. It reconnects daily tasks to meaning, turning routine actions into purposeful steps rather than burdensome obligations. Alignment also involves emotional balance. Mornings often carry emotional residue from previous experiences. unresolved frustration, disappointment, or even excitement. If these emotions remain unchecked, they can influence behavior in subtle but powerful ways. Morning prayer allows emotions to be acknowledged without being allowed to dominate. It creates room for release, where tension can be surrendered and calm can be restored. In this state, emotions no longer lead blindly. They become information rather than drivers. This emotional alignment leads to better decisions, healthier interactions, calm, and greater patience throughout the day. Mental alignment is another critical aspect. The human mind easily drifts into worry, comparison, and self-doubt. Calm, especially at the start of the day when the future feels certain. Prayer brings the mind back to the present moment. It slows down racing thoughts and replaces mental noise with clarity. Instead of starting the day overwhelmed by what might happen, the individual begins grounded in what is within their control. This mental steadiness enhances focus, reduces anxiety, calm, and improves the ability to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Alignment for the day also affects how a person handles challenges. No day is free from difficulty, but a day that begins aligned is approached differently. When prayer comes first, challenges are seen as parts of a larger journey rather than personal attacks or failures. This shift in perspective builds resilience. The individual becomes less reactive to setbacks and more adaptable to change. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the aligned mind asks, "How should I move through this?" This subtle change in posture can transform the entire experience of the day. Another dimension of alignment is moral and value-based clarity. Daily life constantly presents choices, some obvious and others subtle. Without alignment, choices are often made based on convenience, emotion, or pressures. Morning prayer reconnects the individual with their core values. It reminds them of the kind of person they intend to be, not just the tasks they need to complete. This inner reminder strengthens integrity. Actions throughout the day become more consistent with beliefs, reducing inner conflict and regret. Alignment also influences energy management. Many people feel drained not because they do too much, but because they do things without inner coherence. When actions are disconnected from purpose, energy is wasted. Morning prayer helps channel energy more effectively by clarifying focus. It helps distinguish between what deserves attention and what can be set aside. As a result, effort is directed rather than scattered. This leads to greater productivity without the constant feeling of being rushed or depleted. Relational alignment is another important outcome. How a person begins their day often determines how they relate to others. A hurried, uncentered morning can lead to impatience, miscommunication, and unnecessary conflict. Prayer softens the heart before interaction begins. It fosters humility, empathy, and awareness. When the inner world is aligned, the individual listens better, speaks more thoughtfully, and reacts less defensively. Relationships benefit not because problems disappear, but because responses become wiser and more measured. Alignment through morning prayer also reinforces a sense of continuity in life. Instead of each day feeling disconnected or random, prayer creates a thread of consistency. It becomes a daily anchor, reminding the individual that their life is part of a larger story. This continuity provides stability, especially during seasons of change or uncertainty. The day no longer feels like something to survive, but something to engage with intentionally. Over time, this daily alignment shapes character. Come. Repeatedly choosing to begin the day with prayer trains the mind and heart toward awareness, discipline, and purpose. It is not about perfection or control, but about direction. Each morning becomes an opportunity to recalibrate, to return to center, and to step forward with clarity. The accumulated effect of this habit is a life that feels more ordered, more meaningful, and more grounded, even when circumstances remain unpredictable. Inner stillness before activity is the practice of creating a calm and centered state within oneself before engaging with the demands of the day. When morning begins, the external world often tries to claim attention immediately. Alarms ring, phones light up, schedules press in, and expectations line up before the mind has fully awakened. In this environment, calm activity easily precedes awareness. Inner stillness resists this pattern by allowing awareness to come first. Calm. It is a conscious choice to slow down internally, even if the world outside is moving quickly. Calm. Stillness does not mean inactivity. It means clarity without agitation. When the inner world is quiet, calm. Thoughts are not racing in every direction, and emotions are not pulling the person from one reaction to another. Calm. Morning prayer creates this inner stillness by turning attention inward before it is scattered outward. It gives the mind permission to breathe, to observe rather than immediately respond. In that moment, the individual becomes present rather than hurried, grounded rather than tense. Without inner stillness, the day often begins in fragmentation. The mind jumps between concerns, responsibilities, and unresolved issues, creating a sense of pressure before anything has actually happened. This mental clutter can lead to irritability, fatigue, and poor decision making. Inner stillness clears this clutter. It simplifies the inner space, allowing only what is necessary to remain in focus. This simplicity becomes a foundation for navigating complexity later in the day. Stillness before activity also regulates emotional tone. Mornings carry emotional undercurrents that may not be immediately obvious. Anxiety about the future, lingering disappointment from the past, or subtle fear of failure can quietly shape behavior. That if these emotions are not acknowledged in stillness, they often emerge as stress, impatience, or avoidance during the day. Prayer offers a safe space for these emotions to surface without judgment. In stillness, emotions are neither suppressed nor amplified. They are observed and released. This emotional regulation allows the individual to engage the day with greater balance. The mind benefits deeply from stillness because it restores attentional control. Constant stimulation trains the brain to seek distraction and novelty, weakening the ability to focus. Beginning the day with inner stillness counteracts this pattern. It strengthens the ability to hold attention, come to think clearly, and to remain mentally present. This clarity does not eliminate challenges, but improves the capacity to handle them thoughtfully. Tasks are approached with steadiness rather than urgency, and decisions are made with awareness rather than impulse. Inner stillness also sharpens perception. When the inner noise quiets, awareness expands. The individual becomes more attentive to subtle cues, both internal and external. They notice their own limits, their emotional state, and the needs of others more clearly. This heightened perception leads to wiser choices. Instead of pushing beyond capacity or reacting defensively, the person responds in ways that preserve energy and harmony. Stillness creates the space where wisdom can operate. Another important aspect of inner stillness is its effect on stress. Calm. Many people carry stress into the day before encountering any real challenge. This anticipatory stress drains energy and reduces resilience. Stillness interrupts this cycle by resetting the nervous system. Through calm breathing and focused awareness, the body moves out of a heightened state of alert and into a state of balance. This physiological shift supports mental and emotional well-being throughout the day. Stillness before activity also changes the relationship with time. When the day begins in a rush, time feels scarce and threatening. There is a constant sense of being behind. That inner stillness reframes time as something to move through rather than something chasing from behind. The individual becomes more present in each moment instead of mentally jumping ahead. This presence improves both performance and satisfaction. Activities are completed with greater care, and the day feels fuller without feeling overwhelming. In relationships, inner stillness makes a significant difference. A restless inner state often leads to miscommunication, impatience, and misunderstanding. When a person begins the day still, they carry that calm into interactions. They listen more attentively and speak more deliberately. They are less reactive to tension and more open to understanding. This does not eliminate conflict, but it reduces unnecessary friction and promotes mutual respect. Stillness also supports ethical and thoughtful behavior. When the inner world is quiet, impulses are easier to manage. The individual is less likely to act out of anger, fear, or ego. Choices are guided by reflection rather than urgency. This self-regulation builds trust both internally and externally. The person begins to experience consistency between intention and action, which strengthens confidence and self-respect. Over time, practicing inner stillness in the morning reshapes how life is experienced. The individual becomes less dependent on external conditions for peace. Calm is no longer something that must be achieved after everything is done. It becomes a starting point. This shift has long-term effects on mental health, emotional stability, and overall well-being. The day no longer feels like something to endure, but something to engage with consciously. Inner stillness before activity is not about withdrawing from the world, but about entering it from a place of balance. It allows the individual to move through responsibilities without being consumed by them. By beginning the day in stillness, the person establishes an inner anchor that remains steady even when circumstances change. This anchor supports clarity, resilience, and presence as the day unfolds. Clarity and direction are essential for navigating daily life with confidence and purpose. Yet they are often the first things lost in the rush of responsibilities, expectations, and mental noise. When a day begins without clarity, actions are driven by urgency rather than understanding. Decisions are made reactively. Priorities blur and effort becomes scattered. Morning prayer plays a vital role in restoring clarity and direction by creating space for the mind to settle and for intention to emerge before movement begins. Clarity starts with the ability to see the day as it truly is, not as a source of threat or pressure, but as a sequence of moments that can be approached thoughtfully, without prayer or reflection. The mind often exaggerates challenges and minimizes capacity. Tasks feel heavier than they are, and problems appear larger than necessary. Morning prayer quiets these distortions. It slows the mind enough to separate what is urgent from what is important. In this calm mental environment, the individual can recognize which responsibilities deserve focus and which can wait, reducing unnecessary unnecessary stress. Come, direction is closely connected to clarity because it answers the question of where one is going and why. Many people are busy but directionless, constantly moving yet unsure of the purpose behind their movement. Morning prayer reconnects the individual with intention. It reminds them that the day is not merely something to survive, but something to engage with meaning. This sense of direction acts like an internal compass, guiding decisions and actions throughout the day. Even when circumstances change, the presence of direction prevents confusion and panic. Clarity also affects decision making. Every day involves countless decisions, some small and others significant. When clarity is lacking, decisions are often delayed, rushed, or influenced by fear and doubt. Morning prayer strengthens mental discernment. It sharpens awareness and helps the individual weigh options more calmly. Instead of being overwhelmed by possibilities, the mind becomes capable of choosing with confidence. This does not guarantee perfect outcomes, but it reduces regret and indecision. Another important aspect of clarity is understanding personal limits and capacities. Without reflection, people often overcommit, driven by pressure or comparison. This leads to exhaustion and resentment. Morning prayer brings honest self-awareness. It allows the individual to recognize their current emotional and physical state. From this awareness, more realistic plans can be made. Direction then becomes aligned with capacity rather than ambition alone. This alignment supports sustainability and balance throughout the day. Clarity also influences how challenges are interpreted. When the mind is unclear, obstacles are often perceived as signs of failure or personal inadequacy. This perception drains motivation and confidence. Morning prayer reframes challenges as part of the process rather than evidence of defeat. With clarity, difficulties are approached with curiosity rather than fear. The individual becomes more solution-oriented, focusing on what can be done instead of what is lacking. Direction further provides stability during uncertainty. Not every day unfolds as planned, and unexpected events are inevitable. Without a sense of direction, such disruptions can cause anxiety and disorientation. Morning prayer establishes a deeper orientation that is not dependent on circumstances. Even when plans change, the individual retains a sense of purpose. This inner stability allows for flexibility without losing focus. Mental clarity also improves concentration. A cluttered mind struggles to stay present, constantly shifting attention between worries and distractions. Morning prayer reduces this mental clutter. By centering the mind early in the day, it becomes easier to stay engaged with tasks. This focused attention improves efficiency and quality of work. Time is used more effectively, not because there is more of it, but because attention is no longer fragmented. Direction influences motivation as well. When the reason behind actions is unclear, motivation fades quickly. Tasks feel meaningless, leading to procrastination and disengagement. Morning prayer reconnects actions to purpose. Even routine activities gain significance when they are seen as part of a larger intention. This sense of meaning fuels persistence and effort, even when tasks are demanding or repetitive. Clarity also enhances emotional regulation. Confusion often amplifies emotional responses. Small setbacks can trigger disproportionate frustration, while minor successes may go unnoticed. Morning prayer steadies emotional perception. It allows emotions to be felt without being overwhelming. With clarity, emotions are understood as responses rather than commands. This Emotional intelligence supports healthier interactions and more balanced reactions throughout the day. Direction further affects relationships. When a person lacks inner direction, they are more likely to be influenced by others' expectations and opinions. This can lead to people pleasing or conflict avoidance. Morning prayer strengthens inner conviction. It helps the individual remain grounded in their values, making it easier to communicate honestly and set boundaries. Relationships become less reactive and more intentional. Clarity also supports long-term consistency. Without it, life feels like a series of disconnected days. Morning prayer creates continuity by aligning daily actions with broader goals and values. That each day becomes a step rather than an isolated event. This continuity builds momentum and confidence over time, reinforcing a sense of progress and growth. Direction provides a framework for evaluating success. Without clear direction, success is often measured by external approval or short-term results. Morning prayer encourages a more internal measure of success, based on faithfulness to intention and effort rather than outcomes alone. This perspective reduces comparison and fosters contentment. As clarity deepens and direction strengthens through regular morning prayer, the individual experiences a shift in how life is approached. The day becomes less chaotic and more navigable. Calm. Decisions feel less burdensome, challenges feel more manageable, and actions feel more aligned with inner purpose. This clarity does not eliminate complexity, but it transforms confusion into understanding and movement into intentional progress. Calm, strength for challenges, is not merely the ability to endure difficulty, but the inner capacity to face uncertainty, resistance, and pressure without losing balance. Every day presents challenges, some predictable and others unexpected. These challenges may appear as demanding responsibilities, difficult conversations, personal doubts, or circumstances beyond control. Without inner strength, even small obstacles can feel overwhelming. Morning prayer nurtures this strength by preparing the inner life before external pressures arrive. Strength begins internally long before it is expressed outwardly. Many people assume strength comes from confidence, experience, or resources, yet these can quickly fail when circumstances shift. Inner strength is rooted in stability of mind and steadiness of heart. Morning prayer creates this stability by grounding the individual before challenges appear. It offers a moment to acknowledge vulnerability without being defeated by it. In this space, fear can be recognized without being allowed to dominate, and courage can grow quietly. Challenges often drain energy, not because of their difficulty, but because of the mental resistance they provoke. Worry, that anticipation, and overthinking consume more strength than the challenge itself. Morning prayer helps redirect this mental energy. Instead of rehearsing worst-case scenarios, the mind learns to focus on presence and trust. This shift conserves emotional and mental resources, making it easier to respond when challenges actually arise. Strength for challenges also involves resilience. The ability to recover and continue after setbacks. Without preparation, setbacks can feel personal and discouraging, leading to withdrawal or self-doubt. Morning prayer reframes setbacks as part of the journey rather than evidence of inadequacy. This perspective strengthens resilience by reducing emotional collapse when things do not go as planned. The individual learns to bend without breaking, to adjust without surrendering purpose. Emotional strength is another crucial dimension. Challenges often trigger strong emotions such as frustration, anger, fear, or sadness. If these emotions are unmanaged, they can cloud judgment and damage relationships. Morning prayer provides a safe space for emotional release and regulation. By acknowledging emotions early, the individual prevents them from accumulating and erupting. Later, emotional strength is not about suppressing feelings, but about holding them with awareness and composure. Mental strength is equally important when facing challenges. A scattered or anxious mind struggles to think clearly under pressure. Morning prayer trains the mind toward focus and calm. It strengthens the ability to pause before reacting, to think before speaking, and to choose responses rather than impulses. This mental discipline becomes especially valuable during conflict or crisis, where clarity can prevent escalation and misunderstanding. Strength also involves endurance, the capacity to persist through long or repetitive challenges. Some difficulties are not resolved quickly. They require patience and consistency. Without inner reinforcement, endurance fades and discouragement sets in. Morning prayer renews motivation by reconnecting effort to meaning. It reminds the individual why perseverance matters. Even when progress feels slow, this sense of purpose sustains effort over time. Challenges often expose limitations, revealing areas where control is lacking. This loss of control can be unsettling and weaken confidence. Morning prayer addresses this by shifting focus from control to response. Instead of attempting to manage every outcome, the individual strengthens their ability to respond wisely to whatever unfolds. This acceptance reduces internal struggle and builds quiet confidence. Strength for challenges also shapes how failure is handled. Failure, whether perceived or real, can undermine self-worth if interpreted incorrectly. Morning prayer encourages a more compassionate and realistic view of failure. It allows the individual to see failure as information rather than identity. From this perspective, failure becomes a teacher rather than a verdict. This mindset preserves strength and encourages growth rather than withdrawal. Another aspect of strength is moral courage, the ability to act with integrity under pressure. Challenges often test values, tempting compromise for convenience or approval. Morning prayer reinforces inner conviction by reconnecting the individual with their values before such tests arise. This clarity strengthens resolve, making it easier to stand firm even when doing so is uncomfortable or unpopular. Strength also affects how challenges are shared with others. Without inner grounding, challenges may be met with defensiveness or isolation. Morning prayer fosters humility and openness, making it easier to seek support when needed. Recognizing that strength includes knowing when to ask for help reduces unnecessary strain and promotes healthier coping. Physical strength is indirectly influenced as well. Stress and anxiety weaken the body over time, reducing energy and immunity. Morning prayer calms the nervous system, reducing stress-related tension. This physiological calm supports physical endurance throughout the day. While prayer does not remove physical demands, it improves the body's ability to handle them. Strength for challenges is not about eliminating struggle, but about engaging it with steadiness. Morning prayer prepares the individual to meet difficulty with presence rather than panic. It cultivates patience, resilience, and courage that are not dependent on circumstances. When challenges arise, they are met from a place of inner fullness rather than depletion. Over time, this daily reinforcement builds a deep reservoir of strength. Each morning becomes an opportunity to fortify the inner life, ensuring that when challenges appear, They do not catch the individual unprepared. Strength becomes less about reacting forcefully and more about remaining grounded under pressure. Maintaining clarity amid uncertainty and continuing forward with quiet determination. Gratitude as a foundation refers to the practice of beginning the day with an awareness of what is already present, meaningful and sustaining, rather than what is missing or uncertain. The human mind has a natural tendency to scan for problems, especially in the morning when responsibilities and expectations loom ahead without intention. Attention quickly settles on pressure, lack, and comparison. Gratitude gently redirects attention, grounding the inner life in recognition rather than anxiety. This grounding becomes a foundation because it shapes how the entire day is perceived and experienced. When gratitude is practiced in the morning, it establishes a baseline emotional tone. Instead of starting the day internally depleted, the individual begins with a sense of fullness. This does not mean ignoring difficulties or pretending everything is perfect. It means acknowledging that alongside challenges, there are elements of life that are stable, supportive, and meaningful. This acknowledgement steadies the heart. From this steadiness, reactions become less extreme and more measured. Gratitude creates emotional balance by reminding the individual that life is not defined by a single moment or problem. Gratitude also reshapes perception. What the mind focuses on expands in significance. When attention is fixed on lack, even small inconveniences feel heavy. When attention is directed toward appreciation, challenges are placed in context. Morning gratitude trains the mind to notice what is often overlooked: breadth, opportunity, connection, ability, and growth. This shift does not alter external circumstances, but it profoundly alters internal experience. The same day can feel burdensome or meaningful depending on where attention rests. As a foundation, gratitude influences motivation. When life is approached from a sense of lack, motivation is driven by fear or pressure. Actions become attempts to compensate or prove worth. Gratitude changes this dynamic. From appreciation, motivation becomes an expression of stewardship rather than desperation. Tasks are approached with care rather than compulsion. Effort flows from recognition of value rather than anxiety about insufficiency. This healthier motivation sustains energy and reduces burnout. Gratitude also supports emotional resilience. Difficult moments are inevitable, but gratitude softens their impact. When the day begins with appreciation, setbacks are less likely to dominate the emotional landscape. The individual is better able to hold both disappointment and thankfulness at the same time. That this emotional complexity prevents collapse into negativity. Gratitude does not erase pain, but it prevents pain from becoming the sole narrative of the day. In relationships, gratitude as a foundation alters interaction. A grateful heart is less reactive and more generous. When the day begins with appreciation, there is a greater capacity to extend patience, understanding, and kindness. Others are seen less as obstacles and more as fellow participants in a shared experience. This does not eliminate conflict, but it reduces defensiveness and blame. Gratitude fosters humility, making it easier to listen and respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. Gratitude also strengthens self-perception. Without it, the inner dialogue often becomes critical, focused on shortcomings and unmet goals. Morning gratitude redirects attention to growth, effort, and progress. This does not promote complacency, but it encourages self-respect. When individuals acknowledge what they have endured, learned, and achieved, Confidence becomes rooted in reality rather than comparison. This grounded confidence supports healthier risk-taking and persistence throughout the day. As a mental practice, gratitude reduces rumination. Rumination thrives on dissatisfaction and unresolved desire. Gratitude interrupts this cycle by bringing awareness to completion rather than deficiency. The mind becomes less consumed by what should have been or what might be missing. This mental relief frees cognitive space for creativity, focus, and problem solving. The day is approached with openness rather than mental congestion. Gratitude also has a regulatory effect on stress. Stress often arises from the perception that demands exceed resources. Gratitude reminds the individual of existing resources, internal and external. This reminder recalibrates the stress response. Challenges are still acknowledged, come, but they are no longer perceived as overwhelming by default. The nervous system responds with greater calm, supporting both mental clarity and physical well-being. Beginning the day with gratitude reinforces a sense of continuity. Life can feel fragmented when each day is approached as a separate struggle. Gratitude connects the present moment to a larger story. It acknowledges past support and current provision, creating a sense of flow rather than isolation. This continuity provides comfort during uncertainty, reminding the individual that they are not navigating life without context or support. Gratitude also deepens awareness of meaning. When appreciation is practiced, even ordinary moments carry significance. Routine activities are no longer merely tasks to be completed. They become expressions of participation in life. This sense of meaning enriches experience and counters the feeling of emptiness that can arise from constant striving. The day becomes something to engage with rather than endure. As a foundation, gratitude influences ethical behavior. When individuals recognize what they have received, generosity becomes more natural. There is less impulse to take advantage or act selfishly. Gratitude fosters responsibility, encouraging care for what is valued. This orientation supports integrity and thoughtful decision-making throughout the day. Over time, practicing gratitude in the morning reshapes the inner landscape. The mind becomes more attuned to abundance than scarcity, more responsive than reactive. Gratitude becomes less of an exercise and more of a posture. It quietly supports clarity, patience, calm, and resilience as the day unfolds. By grounding the inner life in appreciation, gratitude provides a stable base from which challenges can be faced, relationships can be nurtured, and effort can be sustained without bitterness or exhaustion. Intentional living is the practice of approaching each day with awareness, purpose, calm, and conscious choice rather than drifting through hours on autopilot. Many people live reactively, responding to demands, emotions, and circumstances as they arise, without pausing to consider whether their actions align with their values or long-term direction. Morning prayer creates the space where intentional living begins. Because it invites reflection before reaction and awareness before movement. It shifts life from something that merely happens to something that is actively engaged. When a person lives without intention, days often blur together. Activities are completed, tasks are checked off, but there is a lingering sense of emptiness or restlessness. This feeling does not come from laziness or lack of effort, but from misalignment between action and meaning. The intentional living addresses this gap by helping the individual choose how they want to show up in the day. Morning prayer provides provides the moment where this choice becomes possible. It slows the pace enough for clarity to emerge, come, allowing the individual to decide not just what they will do, but how and why they will do it. Intentional living begins with awareness of the present moment. Without awareness, intention cannot exist. Come. Many people wake up already mentally ahead of themselves, replaying yesterday or worrying about tomorrow. Come. Morning prayer anchors attention in the present. It draws awareness to breath, thought, emotion, and posture. From this awareness, the individual gains the ability to choose responses rather than be driven by habit. Come. This simple shift transforms the quality of daily experience. Choice is central to intentional living. Every day is filled with small decisions that shape mood, productivity, and relationships. Without intention, these decisions are often guided by impulse, convenience, or pressure. Come. Morning prayer strengthens the ability to choose deliberately. It reminds the individual that they have agency, even when circumstances are demanding. This sense of agency fosters responsibility without heaviness and freedom without chaos. Intentional living also involves aligning actions with values. Values often remain abstract unless they are translated into daily behavior. Morning prayer reconnects the individual with what they consider important. Come. It brings values out of the background and places them at the center of attention. From this alignment, actions gain coherence. Decisions become easier because they are guided by principle rather than confusion. This coherence reduces inner conflict and builds integrity. Another dimension of intentional living is presence in activity. Many people rush through tasks while mentally elsewhere, resulting in fatigue without satisfaction. Intentional living encourages full engagement with whatever is being done. Morning prayer cultivates this presence by training attention early in the day. When attention is practiced intentionally, tasks become less draining and more meaningful. Even routine activities are experienced with greater care and focus. Intentional living also shapes how time is experienced. Without intention, time feels scarce and threatening, constantly slipping away. With intention, time becomes something to steward rather than chase. Morning prayer helps the individual approach time with respect instead of anxiety. Priorities are clarified, and unnecessary distractions lose their appeal. This does not create more time, but it creates a more meaningful experience of the time that exists. Relationships are deeply affected by intentional living. Without intention, interactions are often shaped by mood, stress, or habit. Morning prayer prepares the heart for conscious engagement with others. It encourages patience, listening, and empathy instead of reacting defensively or speaking carelessly. The individual becomes more attentive to how their presence affects others. Relationships benefit not because effort increases, but because awareness deepens. Intentional living also influences how challenges are handled. When life is lived without intention, challenges feel like interruptions or threats. With intention, challenges are seen as part of the journey. Morning prayer helps frame difficulties within a broader context of growth and learning. This perspective reduces frustration and increases resilience. The individual remains focused on response rather than resistance. Another important aspect of intentional living is consistency. Motivation fluctuates, but intention provides continuity. Morning prayer reinforces this consistency by grounding each day in reflection. Even when emotions change, intention remains steady. This steadiness supports habits that align with long-term goals rather than short-term comfort. Over time, this consistency shapes character and direction. Intentional living also counters the influence of comparison. Without intention, it is easy to measure life against others' progress or expectations. Morning prayer redirects attention inward. It reminds the individual that their path is unique and that meaning is not found in imitation. This inner grounding reduces envy and self-doubt, allowing the individual to move forward with confidence and authenticity. Intentional living does not eliminate uncertainty, but it changes how uncertainty is approached. Instead of fearing the unknown, the individual learns to move through it thoughtfully. Morning prayer builds trust in the process of living, even when outcomes are unclear. This trust supports calm decision making and reduces the urge to control every detail. Over time, calm, intentional living transforms ordinary days into meaningful experiences. Life becomes less about accumulation and more about alignment. Morning prayer serves as the daily entry point into this way of living, reminding the individual that each day is an opportunity to choose awareness, purpose, and presence. Through this practice, life is no longer something that merely morning prayer is not merely a routine to begin the day. It is a deliberate choice to live with awareness, balance, and purpose. Through alignment, it orders the inner life before external demands take over. Through inner stillness, it creates calm before activity and noise. Through clarity and direction, it sharpens focus and guides decisions. Through strength, it prepares the heart and mind to face challenges with resilience. Through gratitude, it grounds the soul in appreciation rather than anxiety. And through intentional living, that it transforms ordinary days into meaningful journeys. When each morning begins this way, life is no longer driven by pressure or habit, but shaped by conscious choice. The day unfolds not as something to endure, but as something to engage with presence, purpose, and peace. Happens, but something that is consciously lived moment by moment.